Well, I hope you've watched me embarrassingly cry. Thank you. I do know that every time I sit down to do interviews, it's usually based on who I'm dating, what I'm wearing, what's my favorite color, favorite song. And when I find those people that genuinely appreciate me for me, it keeps me going. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'm joining you.
Thank you. Thank you. Georgie, you're the reason why I do what I do. Thank you.
That's so sweet. Okay, so
This is the second time I've cried in like 3 interviews this past week because it's been about my fans and they are so good to me. And it's like the moments that I needed the most, they're there for me. So.
Nobody expected her to cry like that. Not in that moment, and not over a question that wasn't even about heartbreak. It was supposed to be another clean interview, another polite exchange where Selena Gomez smiles, answers, and moves on. But something inside her finally gave way. Right in the middle of speaking, her voice cracked, her eyes filled with tears, and the room went silent. When she said, "Well, I hope you've watched me embarrassingly cry," it didn't sound like a joke. It sounded like someone realizing she couldn't hold everything in anymore. For years, the world reduced Selena to headlines about who she was dating, what she was wearing, and what went wrong this time. But in that moment, none of it mattered. She wasn't crying over a breakup or fame or rumors. She was crying because, for once, someone was listening to who she really was. Through tears, she explained how interviews are always about surface things, how rarely anyone asks about the person underneath the image, and how exhausting it is to constantly perform a version of yourself that the world expects. Then she talked about her fans, and that's when the emotion hit hardest. The people who stayed, the people who showed up when she needed them most, the ones who didn't disappear when she wasn't perfect or smiling or strong. She cried again, not quietly or gracefully, but the kind of tears that come from being strong for too long. She apologized for crying, the way people do when they're taught emotions are something to hide, and the interviewer joined her, not as a host, but as another human in the room. In that moment, Selena wasn't being watched anymore. She was being understood. And what most people didn't realize was that this wasn't just an emotional interview. It was years of pressure, judgment, and being defined by other people finally spilling out. This was the moment the cameras didn't plan for, the part of her story no headline could capture, and the beginning of something much deeper than anyone expected. What most people never saw was what happened after the interview ended, after the lights dimmed and the cameras stopped rolling. The tears didn't stop because that moment wasn't about being emotional on cue. It was about everything she had been carrying quietly for years finally reaching the surface. Selena later admitted that there were mornings she woke up already crying, not because of one specific memory, not because of one person, but because the weight of it all felt impossible to hold anymore. At the same time, she was battling lupus, going through treatments that drained her body and changed her appearance. The world watched closely and judged even closer. Every photo became a discussion. Every change in her body turned into speculation, and every pause in her career sparked rumors about what was really wrong with her. But behind the headlines was someone trying to survive physically and emotionally, someone learning how to exist in a body that no longer felt predictable, while millions felt entitled to an opinion about it. And then there was Justin. Not just the memory of him, but the constant reminder of him moving forward publicly while she was still learning how to breathe again. Love feels different when you're sick, when you're exhausted, when your confidence has been worn down by criticism disguised as curiosity. It stops feeling safe and starts feeling heavy, like something you have to earn instead of something that protects you. Selena wasn't just healing from a breakup. She was healing while being compared, measured, and judged by strangers who never knew what she was fighting just to get through the day. Social media made sure she never forgot it. Comments about her weight, her face, her health, and her worth followed her everywhere. Even moments meant to celebrate survival, like sharing photos after her kidney transplant, were twisted into attacks. Instead of compassion, she received cruelty. Instead of understanding, she was told she had changed too much. And slowly, without realizing it, those voices began to sound louder than her own. This is the part of the story that never goes viral. Not the relationship, not the drama, but the quiet damage that builds when someone is constantly reminded that they are being watched while they're breaking. Selena didn't fall apart all at once. She unraveled slowly, privately, in moments no one thought to film. What made everything hurt even more was that while Selena was still learning how to survive her own body, Justin Bieber was already being seen living a new chapter in public. He didn't just move on quietly, he moved on under the same spotlight that had once followed them everywhere. Every photo of him smiling again, every appearance where he looked better, every headline about him finding peace became another reminder that their story had ended unevenly. For Selena, it wasn't jealousy that hurt the most, it was the timing. She was fighting for her health, her confidence, and her sense of self, while the person she once leaned on seemed to be finding stability without her. Justin never grew up with space to process emotions normally. Fame taught him how to perform, not how to heal. And when someone like that reaches a breaking point, they don't always choose what feels right. They choose what feels quiet. Something simpler. Something that doesn't remind them of who they were when everything hurt. Loving Selena meant facing shared trauma, shared history, shared pain. Walking away meant silence, and silence can feel like relief when you don't know how to fix yourself. But for Selena, that silence felt like abandonment. Not just romantic, but emotional. The person who once knew her at her strongest also knew her at her weakest, and seeing him move forward while she was still recovering made her question everything. She started wondering if love had failed because she had changed, if her illness made her harder to love, if she had become too much, too fragile, too complicated. These thoughts didn't come from nowhere. They were fed by years of comparison, by the world constantly measuring her against an image she never tried to be. Justin's new life didn't just close a chapter, it forced Selena to confront a painful truth. Sometimes people leave not because you aren't enough, but because they don't know how to stay when things get heavy. And realizing that doesn't stop the pain, it just changes its shape. It turns heartbreak into self-doubt, and love into a question mark you carry with you long after the relationship ends. Eventually, the pain stopped asking questions and started demanding answers. Selena realized she couldn't keep measuring her worth against someone else's choices, no matter how much history they shared. Watching Justin build a new life forced her to confront something she had been avoiding for years: the truth that love isn't supposed to feel like survival. It isn't meant to cost you your health, your confidence, or your sense of self. And for the first time, instead of asking why she wasn't chosen, she began asking why she kept choosing pain. This shift didn't come with a big announcement or a viral moment. It came quietly, in therapy rooms, in hospital beds, in long nights where she had no one to perform for and nowhere to hide. She started learning how to sit with herself without judgment, how to hear her own voice without the noise of millions interrupting it. And slowly, the version of Selena who needed to be understood by everyone began to fade. In her place was someone who only needed to understand herself. Justin's journey continued separately, and that distance became necessary. Not because there was no love left, but because love without stability becomes a wound. Seeing him from afar no longer hurt the way it once did. It became a reminder, not of what she lost, but of what she survived. She stopped replaying the past and started protecting her present. The comparisons lost their power, the headlines lost their grip, and the tears that once came from feeling unworthy began to come from relief instead. This was the moment Selena stopped shrinking. She didn't harden. She didn't become bitter. She softened in a way that made her stronger. She allowed herself to exist without explanation, without apology, without needing to prove she was okay. And in doing that, she found something she had been chasing for years: peace. Not the kind that looks perfect on camera, but the kind that lets you wake up without fear. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of a life no longer defined by heartbreak,